Hey everyone, and welcome to Autism Awakening, the podcast that helps you help your child with autism. My name's Dr. Jared Skowron, and I've been an international autism biomedical doctor for over 20 years. And Autism Awakening is our way for me to take my 2 decades of clinical experience and give them to you so you can help your child on their road to recovery. Today is middle of July. I'm not sure exactly what the date is, but we're looking at the middle of July. So big hot summer for a lot of us. So hope you guys are enjoying the summer, enjoying some time off from school, at least those of you up here in the Northern Hemisphere. And we've decided on today's topic to be about vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is a very popular vitamin supplement, things that we've been aware of for a very long time, and we're going to be taking this podcast to just focus on this one tiny little piece. Now, our podcast, Autism Awakening, has been going on for over 5 years. I think we've got over 160 episodes out there in the podcast world, and we try to take different topics, whether it's symptomatic concerns of speech or behavior or sensory issues or motor function, etc., some type of medical testing, or maybe some type of intervention. So we're going to be really specific here on vitamin D, and it's going to be a pretty straightforward, simple thing, and that A, vitamin D is super important. B, we all need vitamin D. But C, you're probably not taking enough. And that's what I really want to kind of bring home for you guys, is that the dose of vitamin D that you're using for yourself or for your child may not be sufficient. And so we're going to kind of get into the medical issues about the lab testing, the medical issues about the treatment dosages kind of recommended by the powers that be. And I want to bring to you what I think will make you healthier, make your child healthier, and make us happier. So let's start in with the science. And of course, what we love to talk about at Autism Awakening is the abundance of scientific research that's being published on different ways to help with autism. Now, my subspecialty is using natural therapeutics instead of pharmaceutical interventions for autism because, frankly, I think it works better, right? I mean, there are no pharmaceuticals that are going to help with the developmental delays of autism. There's basically just pharmaceuticals that are used as psychiatric and pharmaceutical straitjackets if your child has behavior problems. Or maybe there are some other medical issues that are concurrent or at the same time that are with your child's autism, and there are medications that might be able to handle that. But let's get down into vitamin D. Live shout outs so far. Rodney's on, Sandra's on, Jeannie's on. Who else did I just see? Kind of Charm on, who's some of our regulars. Philip, I see a lot. So let's get into vitamin D. Again, we know the basics. It's an important vitamin. We all need it. But are you getting enough? And how do you determine that? So let's jump right in to, of course, science. Everything we do is science-based. Here we go with our first study. And before I read our first study, for those of you who are listening to our podcast, kind of in the podcast world, we record our podcast live on our Facebook page. So our Facebook page is Spectrum Awakening, and we record this live every Thursday at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Spectrum Awakening Facebook page. So if you're ever interested, you can just get on Facebook, find our site, and kind of take part in a live recording. So you can ask live questions and see me. And we try to put some of these podcasts on YouTube and Rumble if they haven't taken us down yet. So let's get into this info so you can see the scientific research that I'm reading. First research study is from 2020, and it is the association between vitamin D and autism. Children and adolescents with autism had significantly lower vitamin D concentration than that of the control group. Lower vitamin D was associated with a higher risk of autism. Children with reduced maternal or neonatal vitamin D had 54% higher likelihood of developing autism. Let me read that last part again. Ready? Low vitamin D levels in the pregnant mothers or the young infants, lower vitamin D levels had 54% higher chance of getting autism. Now just imagine if there was one simple thing you could do of taking a vitamin D supplement and reduce the risks of getting autism. It sounds pretty straightforward. Mirika's on. Hey, Doc. Pleasure to listen to you every Thursday. Thanks, Mirika. Thanks for tuning in. You know, I love parents that want to help their kids. So I'm here to help you help them. All right, next research study here. The role of vitamin D in autism. Vitamin D deficiency in early life can alter brain development, dysregulate neurotransmitter balance in the brain, and decrease body and brain antioxidant ability, as well as alter the immune system. So I like this study because it talks about what vitamin D does. Vitamin D helps with brain development. Vitamin D helps with brain chemical or neurotransmitter balance. Vitamin D helps with antioxidants and the immune system. So vitamin D is super important. So we understand all these other medical aspects that we talk about in our podcast are affected by nutrients, are affected by vitamin D, which obviously brain development. We're talking about neurotransmitters and brain chemicals all the time in our podcast, antioxidants, and of course the immune system. Vitamin D is so important. But again, you'll hear it, you'll see at the end of this research, dosing is what we need. Location. This is dosing. All right. Here's a recent study from last year, 2023, the effects of vitamin D supplementation on children with autism. Children who received vitamin D supplementation showed a significant improvement in stereotypical behavior, that's stereotypies and stimming. They saw an improved total score on the social responsiveness scale and an improvement on the childhood autism rating scale, or CARS. Vitamin D supplementation appears to improve stereotypical behaviors, but does not improve other core symptoms and coexisting conditions. This is a really great point of, hey, what does vitamin D do? Well, we know what vitamin D deficiency is associated, but what are we really going to get symptomatically by giving our child an effective dose of vitamin D? You're going to be seeing improvements in the stereotypies, in the social response, and the general autism rating scale, okay? What you're not going to see are other core symptoms of autism, because vitamin D deficiency doesn't cause autism, but it sure increases the risk of it. So it's part of that puzzle, part of that treatment program that you want to make sure you get. Next one, from 2021, the role of vitamin D supplementation in children with autism. Children with autism consistently reported significantly lower vitamin D levels than typically developing children. Moreover, vitamin D deficiency was found to be strongly correlated with autism severity. Let me say that again. Vitamin D deficiency was found to be strongly correlated with autism severity. Vitamin D can affect neurodevelopment in children with autism through its anti-inflammatory properties, stimulating the production of neurotrophins, decreasing the risk of seizures, and regulating glutathione and serotonin levels. That shows improvements with vitamin D status significantly reduces autism severity. Again, improved vitamin D status significantly reduces autism severity. All right. Hey, live shout out to Alexandra, one of our great patients from Romania, and actually talked to two patients in Europe today. If you're not aware, you're new to Spectrum Awakening, I have a telemedicine clinic, so I help people all over the world. All you have to do is get on your phone, get on your computer, we set up a Zoom, and we're here to help you. So what I like about this study is it mentions vitamin D reduces seizures. Always great to know. We talked about seizures, I believe, last week. Last week podcast was about seizures. Make sure you want that. Vitamin D also improves glutathione. Glutathione is the major antioxidant in the body. Okay, we need vitamin D to make sure that that's regulated. And it helps with serotonin levels. And boy, we have been talking serotonin for 20 years on how it helps our kids' language, behavior, and sleep. All right. So here's a picture from one of those research studies. And, you know, I love pictures because pictures are worth 1,000 words. This picture just shows a child with autism. And, hey, it's got some language disorder, and part of that language disorder has to do with dopamine. And that's right, vitamin D is associated with neurotransmitters and dopamine. Over here on this side, we see sleep disorders, and of course, vitamin D is also associated with serotonin and therefore with melatonin. So vitamin D is helping all of these neurotransmitters be produced and be regulated. So that's another reason that we need it. Why do people get seasonal affectiveness disorder or seasonal affective disorder? When it's winter, our vitamin D levels are in the tank, and I feel sad and I feel depressed. Serotonin, dopamine, those chemicals of a mood and emotions and happiness and joy and motivation. All right. Now, when you test vitamin D, let's segue over to testing. okay? How do you know if you've got a good or a deficient vitamin D level? Okay, you test, all right? Right now, the only way to test that I'm aware of is a blood test. So, yeah, blood draws are hard for our kids, but that's the way that we can get a vitamin D analysis and assessment, all right? When we test for vitamin D, and we're kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of the medicine here, vitamin D, which, by the way, is actually a hormone. Vitamin D is produced by cholesterol. So for those of you who are monitoring your child's cholesterol levels, if you have a low cholesterol level, you're probably going to have a low vitamin D level. Okay? Now, many people aren't familiar with low cholesterol levels. You know, we're always worried about high cholesterol levels because high cholesterol is associated with heart attacks, heart disease, and stroke. We don't want that. Okay? But you can actually have too low a cholesterol level because cholesterol is the building block structure of almost every hormone in the body. Our estrogen, our progesterone, our testosterone, our cortisol, our vitamin D, all come from cholesterol, okay? Cholesterol provides the structure for our cell membranes, all right? We need that structure or we just be this floating blob going around. We need cholesterol. We don't want too much, right? But we don't want too little. Remember, medicine is always Goldilocks. So, again, if you are measuring your child's cholesterol levels and it's lower than 150, I'm concerned. I'm concerned because we're going to have a low level of the nutrients. We're going to have a low levels of the substances that produce hormones. Okay? So, vitamin D, we actually make from cholesterol. Okay? It gets activated by sunlight. Okay? We all know, hey, vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin, right? So, you know, you go out in the sun ultraviolet rays hit your skin, and that activates the vitamin D conversion. And so that vitamin D conversion converts into something called 25-OH vitamin D, okay, or 25-hydroxy vitamin D. Then that gets converted again into something called 1-25-OH, or 1,25-hydroxy vitamin D. So these are just different forms of vitamin D that our body processes. But again, we make vitamin D, we get vitamin D from some foods, that gets activated by the ultraviolet rays of the sun, and you get this 25-hydroxy form and this 1,25-hydroxy form, which actually is happening in the liver and the kidneys. So I mentioned that because we're going to be seeing those terms in the next few studies, and I just want to kind of highlight that. Again, side comment, if you're using sunscreen, which we should because we don't want, skin cancer, sunscreen prevents the ultraviolet lights from hitting the ultraviolet rays from hitting our skin. So sunscreen is going to reduce vitamin D production and vitamin D metabolism. So I do want you guys to use sunscreen in the heat of the day, but if your kids are out in the morning, your kids are out, in the afternoon when there's not strong sun, you don't need the sunscreen. Okay, let's get that sun on our bodies. Let's get that sun. That's how we developed. We were out in the farms, we were out in the fields, we were out hunting every day, right, in the sun. And our bodies are used to that, okay? We didn't have sunscreen for thousands of years and millennia. All right, moving on. I bring up these terms. Okay, blunted serum 25-OH-D response to vitamin D3 supplementation in children with autism. So let me just pause here and explain this. Again, the vitamin D3 is going to convert into this 25-hydroxy-D form. That's part of the conversion, that occurs in the body. So why is the conversion of vitamin D to these active forms blunted in children with autism? That's what we're talking about. That conversion isn't happening. So blunted 25-hydroxy-D response to vitamin D supplementation in children with autism. Children with autism had a lower increase in the 25-hydroxy-D levels with supplementation compared to neurotypical kids. So again, this is another reason that my big message in this podcast is going to be dosing, because a certain dose for a neurotypical child is going to get a certain amount of active form in the body, but that active form is less in our kids. So we probably need a higher dose. How do you know? Testing. And I'll get to that. All right, here's another one. Association of low 25-hydroxy vitamin D levels, that's one of those metabolized active forms, and inflammatory markers in patients with autism. There are ample evidence that vitamin D has an anti-inflammatory effect. Significant negative correlation was found between 25-hydroxy vitamin D and CRP, NLR, and neutrophil counts in autism. What this is saying is low vitamin D levels is associated with high inflammation in our kids with autism. And high vitamin D levels is associated with low inflammation in our kids. So one way that we can help keep inflammation under control is just by making sure we've got a healthy, adequate vitamin D level. Okay? All right. Let's get into, that's what we have for our scientific research. Again, I think it's straightforward. Vitamin D is low in kids with autism. Vitamin D helps autism in a multitude of ways, especially reducing inflammation, improving antioxidants, and improving brain chemistry. Okay? So we need it, and we need the right amounts. How do we know we have the right amount? You got to test. Okay? And the test is a blood test. Now, I'm going to show you some slides about the testing and about the dosing, but I want to start here. I have a big problem with conventional medicine and interpretation of labs using reference ranges. Okay? And let me explain why. When you go to a lab, you get a blood test and you get a number. You're like, hey, my vitamin D level is this number, whatever that may be. Okay? Then they give you a reference range. That reference range says, well, your vitamin D should be between this number and that number. That's what it is, okay? Most of those reference ranges are not based on health. They are based on an average of who comes into the lab, okay? So the lab takes all these numbers and says, okay, here's the numbers that we've got for all these people. We're going to just take an average of all of that, okay? And then they create a bell curve. They create a bell curve with two standard deviations, okay? And that gets a little bit of mathematically, complicated here. But what that basically means is that reference range, okay? Your lab result should be between here and here. That includes 95% of the people that have come into that lab. 95%. So if you are less than that, you are part of the lowest 2.5%. And 97.5% of people have a better number than you. If you're on the opposite end, if you're high, you're part of that 2.5%, and 97.5% of the world has a more normal level or a lower level than you. So taking that into account, when we see a reference range, I think of it as a dartboard, okay? I want a bullseye. I don't want to be over on this extreme. I don't want to be on that extreme. I want to be near the middle for most results, okay? There are exceptions. So what kind of frustrates me is when conventional docs will look at this range, and let's say the range of vitamin D, at least here in the U.S., is between a 30 and 100. So between 30 and 100 is the typical reference range for vitamin D in the U.S. If you had a 30 right on the edge, most doctors would say, you're fine, you're in the reference range. But guess what? You're at 2.5%. 97.5% of the world has a higher vitamin D level than you. Is that healthy? I don't think so. I think it's barely normal, all right? And if you had a 29, if you were just outside that, would you intervene? Would you give treatment? What's the difference between a 29 and a 30 on when you'd give treatment, all right? This is why I want to look at these as Goldilocks, not too little, not too much, but just right. I want to think of it as a dartboard. I want to hit the bullseye. I want to hit the middle of that bell curve for most labs. And for vitamin D, let's take that into account, okay? So again, that's one of my concerns with conventional interpretations and lab work and reference ranges. I also have a concern in general where some physicians will prefer things on one extreme rather than the other extreme. So for example, I would say if I was to give a global stereotypical assessment of most conventional docs, they would take a look at that vitamin D range, okay, 30 to 100. And if you had a 30, they'd probably say, all right, you're okay. You're in the reference range. Don't worry about it. But if you had 100, they'd be like, whoa, you're really high. I don't like that number. Well, what's the difference? What's the difference between this end of the reference range and that end of the reference range in your interpretation of what's good for your patient? Okay? Again, middle of the dartboard here. Middle of the dartboard is where I'm going. All right. Here we go. These are 25-hydroxy vitamin D levels. This data is from the National Institutes of Health. This is the NIH. This is the health department of the U.S. government. Okay? What we have here is two different sets of reference ranges. The one that I've highlighted here uses a label called nanomoles per liter. This is what's used in the U.S. This category here, nanograms per milliliter, this is normally what's used in Europe. So make sure you're interpreting your lab appropriately. All right. So I'll use the US ones. If you're less than 30, you are determined to be vitamin D deficient, and you definitely need an intervention. If you are between 30 and 50, you're considered inadequate. Okay? Need intervention. If you are above 50, you're considered adequate. If you're above 125, you're linked to potential adverse effects and toxicity. Okay? So where do I want to be? Well, I don't want to be below 30. 30 to 50 is inadequate. I don't like there. Above 50 is adequate. Hey, live shout out to my buddy Rob from Rhode Island. I hope the 3 kids are doing well. You guys should, we need to go to a Yard Goats game, some paw socks. Anyway, and if you're over 125, it's toxic. So if adequate is between 50 and 125, where's the middle there? Okay, I'd ballpark like between an 80 or a 90. All right. Now, let's take that 80 or 90 vitamin D level and go back to most U.S. labs. Most U.S. labs say between 30 and 100 is good. So if you had an 80 or a 90, I know most conventional docs are going to start to get worried that you have too much. But frankly, that's the middle of the ballpark, the middle of the bullseye for adequate levels based on the National Institutes of Health. Okay? So my goal for you, 80 to 90 on your vitamin D, 25 hydroxy level. You got to test. It's the only way to know. All right. How much is going to get you there? That's the question. How much is going to get you there? The next slide I'm going to show is what is called the RDA. And the RDA is the recommended dietary allowance. It's a term used in the U.S. for, how they determine what 100% of your vitamin is. Okay? And this gets really confusing and misleading because if you look at your ingredients, okay, whether it's food, whether it's a vitamin, and you see a vitamin, okay, let's take vitamin D, for instance, and it says, here's the amount of vitamin D in this food or in this vitamin, and here's the percentage, okay? When you see that, say 100%, what does that mean, okay? Most people interpret that as, hey, I've got 100% of what I need for the day. Over 100% is too much. Under 100% is not enough. That's how most people interpret this. However, let me explain what it really means, okay? 100% RDA is the bare minimum you need not to get sick. That's how the RDA is defined. The RDA, 100%, is the bare minimum you need not to get sick. How much vitamin C do you need every day not to get scurvy? That's what it's defined as. So guess what? The RDA is the bare minimum. It is not health. It is not adequate. It's just making that bottom of that reference range for healthy nutrition and nutrients. Okay? So you really want more than that 100% of the RDA. But again, we have to ask the question, Goldilocks, too little, too much, what is just right? So let's walk you through this. Here's another chart. Make sure you screenshot this if you want. This is the RDA. This is the bare minimum you need. It's going to say 100%, but it's 100% not to get sick. 100% bare minimum. Here you've got age, and here you've got dosing, male versus female. We've also got some pregnancy and lactation here, but it's all the same for the bare minimum. All right. Vitamin D used to be given in IUs, and that's what I am used to because that's what happened. That's what it was when I went to school in the 20th century. They've converted the dosing now to micrograms, so I'm going to use micrograms, but I'm kind of used to IUs. So if you're a year or less, you need a bare minimum of 400 IUs a day. That's 10 micrograms, okay? Everything else, up until geriatric years, which we won't get into, you need a minimum of 15 micrograms or 600 IUs. A minimum. That's the minimum amount of vitamin D you need every day, not to get rickets, not to get osteoporosis. Bare minimum. Bare minimum, okay? But it's not healthy. So how much is healthy? Let's think about first how much is too much. And this is really the major point of this podcast. Dosing, dosing, dosing. How much is healthy for you and your child? Especially thinking that scientific research I showed you, that the vitamin D level is not going to increase as much in our kids with autism than neurotypical kids. So we may need even a higher dose to get that 80 or 90 on our lab test. And that's where we need to go. That's going to be our benchmark. That's going to be your thermometer. That's going to be your barometer. That's going to be your thermostat for am I giving enough or too much? It's getting that vitamin D lab test to be around an 80 or a 90. Okay? So let's look at the general information on toxicity. All right, these are tolerable upper intake levels based on age, okay? 0 to 6 months, okay, maxes out at 1,000 IUs, that's 25 micrograms. 7 to 12 months goes up to 1,500 IUs, or 38 micrograms. 1 to 3 years goes up to 2,500 IUs, or 63 micrograms. I'd say most of the people, most kids' age that I work with as patients, or who may be listening out here, kind of sitting here in the 4 to 8 year old, you're maxing out at 3,000 IUs a day, or 75 micrograms. And then once you pass 9, easily, safely take 4,000 IUs a day, or 100 micrograms. So screenshot this, because I want you guys to know that you should be taking thousands of IUs of vitamin D a day. This is daily stuff. Daily vitamin D dosing can easily go up to this level. Now, many people take more. I personally take 25,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. Why? That's the dose that gets me to that 80 to 90 level in the lab test. That's our barometer. That's what I want. I want that healthy level of vitamin D. Whatever dose is going to get me there is what I want, okay? I could take a baby dose. I could take a huge dose. That dose doesn't matter. What I've got in my body is what matters. And frankly, it's affected by a lot of things. It's affected by how much sunlight I get. It's affected by my genetics. It's affected by my weight. It's affected by my skin color. It's affected by a lot of things, all right? Don't be afraid of higher dosing vitamin D as long as you're measuring lab tests. Okay. All right. I hope I hammered that horse and beat that horse and repeated that stuff till you get my point. Vitamin D is super important, okay? Vitamin D is super important and is often lower in our kids with autism. Okay, scientific research shows vitamin D levels often lower in our kids with autism than neurotypical kids. Deficiency in vitamin D can increase the risk of having a child with autism by 50%. That's a lot, okay? What does vitamin D do? Well, it helps with the immune system. It helps with antioxidants and glutathiones. It helps with brain chemical production, okay? It's not just strong bones and strong teeth. Vitamin D is a hormone that does a lot in this body. In fact, almost every type of body part, almost every cell in our body, except for our fat tissue, has a vitamin D receptor. So vitamin D is affecting our brain, our skin, our heart, our eyes, our ovaries, our testicles, our stomach, our intestines, our everything. So I want to make sure you've got enough, all right? Understand that RDA 100% is defined by the bare minimum not to get sick. It is not healthy. It is not adequate, all right? So I want you to get that lab testing done. And I want your lab testing to be healthy and adequate. I don't want it to be bare minimum. I don't want it to be toxic. I want Goldilocks. I want just right. So try the different doses. And again, we showed those dosings of what's bare minimum and what's probably top end of the range. But you've got to experiment for you and your genetics on what that is. Okay. Where can you get vitamin D? Most importantly, when you get vitamin D, it needs to be vitamin D3, okay? Vitamin D2 is worthless, it's pointless, it has a third of the effect in the body. That's what they supplement in most milk products is vitamin D2. It's a waste. It's pointless, all right? Vitamin D3 is the way to go. All right, technically that's called cholecalciferol. Most ingredients and vitamins are going to show it as vitamin D3, all right? There's a lot of vitamin D supplements on the market. Of course, at Spectrum Awakening, we want to make sure we offer you high-quality supplements that are all gluten-free and dairy-free. So we've got a couple options. I got a couple here. We've got, hey, I know kids like gummies, right? Yeah, they've got sugar, but if that's all they'll take. We got vitamin D gummies. It's called Gummy Sunshine. We also have vitamin D tablets. They're pretty small. They're probably like size of a pencil eraser. They also have vitamin K in with them, which is good. And we also have vitamin D as a liquid. So this is our liquid sunshine. That's our vitamin D in a liquid. And frankly, it doesn't have much taste. I haven't taken mine today. So each one of these drops, so one tiny drop is 2,000 IUs. That's going to be the upper limit for most kids 4 or over. I normally take a whole shot, right? And it's because vitamin D is fat soluble, it really just kind of tastes like oil. So if you're interested and you want something gluten-free, dairy-free, and you know it's good quality, you can grab some of the vitamin D supplements we have on our website. If you'd like the coupon for the weekend, okay? Coupon for the weekend is Vitamin D20. Vitamin D20 is going to get you 20% off any of our supplements, any of our lab tests, not just the vitamin D ones. That expires July 21st, 2024. Again, as I mentioned, if you want one-on-one help, I have a telemedicine practice and we get a Zoom meeting. We talk for an hour. What's going on with your kid? Let me order some lab results. Send me the lab results you've already done. Let's put this together and get a plan to help your child improve. Okay? You can get that on our website as well, spectrumawakening.com. All right, let's get into the live questions for today. And again, I hope everybody's enjoying our summer. I'm up here in the Northeast in New England, and boy, I know it's hotter in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, but we've been having a hot summer, probably our hottest summer on record. Again, live shout out to some of our regulars like Rodney and Jeannie and Sandra and Mirica. Jeannie said, perfect timing for this live. I just started my Boy on Vitamin D drops 5 days ago. Again, Jeannie, dosing. Make sure you got it right. Janice says, hi, Doc. I love these lives you do for us. Janice, I love that you guys watch. I'm here to help kids. That's what I do. I love what I do. What I need you guys to do is share this information. Get this info out to other families, other friends, other people that have kids on the spectrum so they know there's hope to help. Okay. I mentioned earlier today, I spoke with 2 patients today in my telemedicine practice from the United Kingdom, one from England, one from Scotland. And in the United Kingdom, they don't have the belief like we do in the U.S. here that there are other treatments for autism in addition to therapy. And so there's a lot of stonewalling by their doctors, by their therapists, that there are no other options. Okay? We're talking about science here. We're talking about scientific research that is proving there are other ways to help. So I love doing it, Janice. Thank you for listening. Get the word out to other people around the world. Live shout out again to Mirica and Alexandra. Jessica, I asked about it before. I'm pretty positive Natalie's outbursts are hormone related. She has a couple weeks before her monthly acting out. Once she starts, it ends until the next cycle. What is the take on your pregnenolone calm? All right, Jess. So if you've got, menses timing related mood issues, happens to a lot of people. Okay. What I would do is get blood work done and measure your hormones. Okay. Measure your hormones when it's bad. That's usually around day 21 of your cycle. Okay. Just as a review, when you have your menstrual cycle, the first day that you bleed, that's day 1, and then you count it out until the next day you bleed. Okay, so most people have an average of 28-day cycle. We ovulate normally on day 14, and that second half of the cycle, day 14 to day 28, is normally when you have this lowering of estrogen. There's a lot of estrogen in the first half of the cycle, lower estrogen in the second half of the cycle, and higher progesterone. A lot of people will get mood issues in that second half of the cycle because the progesterone level isn't high enough. Okay, why does that happen? It happens because of stress. So I would get a blood test, around day 21, but we can also help out either with our pregnenolone calm supplement or progesterone cream. Do I have the progesterone cream up here? Yeah, so we've got this progesterone cream. I would test your progesterone levels before using this, but this is actual bioidentical progesterone hormone, which is legal at a low dose over the counter. This is not a pharmaceutical. So get those testing done. Try our pregnenolone calm. That's great. You may also want to try our temper tamer supplement. That can help too. Also, if anybody likes seeds, and I know diet and picky eaters are common in our kids, but if your daughter likes sunflower seeds, eat those the second half of the cycle, as many as you want. All right. Gada, how can I choose a proper probiotic? Some probiotics make my child mad. And also for GABA. Some doctor told me GABA can't cross the blood-brain barrier, so no value for GABA. So 2 questions here. Number 1, I say this a lot, and you know what? That's going to be next week's Facebook Live, okay? I know my social media guru, Erica's on there. Erica, we're going to do probiotics next week. Keep that in mind and remind me. If you take a gut supplement and you get worse, you have a gut infection. Why? All right? Gut infections hurt. Stomach bugs hurt, especially our kids with sensory issues that feel everything more, okay? You start killing off bugs, and they're going to cause more pain. With more pain, cause more behaviors. So when we take a gut supplement, that could kill off bad infections, whether that's a probiotic, whether that's inulin, whether that's any other kind of treatment, all right? If you have behaviors on a gut supplement, you probably have a gut infection. So what do? Either you address the gut infection, like with our yeast mold bundle or our Paraslayer or our Biocillin, or get a stool test. Okay, next, the doctor told you that the amino acid GABA, the protein GABA, does not cross into the brain. We believe that to be true. However, it's not just the brain that uses GABA, okay? GABA is used in all parts of the body. GABA is used for neuropathy. GABA is used for sensory issues. GABA affects our peripheral nervous system, not just the brain central nervous system. So while the doctor's correct, GABA probably doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier, it's not the only place that GABA is used. So you can help with sensory issues, you can help with peripheral issues, you can help with digestive issues by increasing GABA activity outside of the brain. I'll stop there. Sharon, hey doc, can I mix gut calm and gut immune together in juice? Yes. Yes, you can. Jeannie, by the way, 2 organic D3 drops daily when started 5 days ago haven't decreased my boy's stimming behavior in the least. Suggestions welcome. Vitamin D treatments takes a longer time. It's not an instant like an amino acid or a folinic acid treatment. Not instant, but a few days. So it's gonna take. And Jeannie, I forgot how old your child is, but it's gonna take a good month to see it. The vitamin D is a long game, like iron. Retha, I'm a good doctor from Long Island. When you back in office, please. Right now, I have a telemedicine clinic. So right now, I can help you on your computer or your phone anywhere around the world. My colleague, Dr. Erica Smith, is in her office in Stamford, Connecticut. And what we do with patients who want to be seen personally, they go into the office, see Dr. Smith, and I can Zoom there so we can all be together, the 3 of us. America, we tried for the second time for only 4 days, then we stopped. Power and focus, anger management, and we saw agitation, OCD, anxiety in our 6-year-old daughter. What else do you recommend? Our favorite remains Mitomax, finishing our 3rd month. I love that you love Mitomax. All right, so if we've got this neurotransmitter irregularity, I think, Paul, we're dealing with a lot of inflammation. You might be dealing with pandas or pants. So you may want to go to the arena of things like our Panda Bear or our curcumes as anti-inflammatories, or you may want to go with systemic infections, like with our Viragon or our yeast mold bundle. I would go with infections or with inflammation. I think that's what we're dealing with, which can obviously cause the OCD and the agitation. Okay. Sharon, my child laughs when I add NEC. What could be the reason? Great question. Again, going back to what we said, certain treatments that exacerbate behaviors probably indicate gut infection. NAC is great. I love NAC. It's a protein. It dissolves mucus. It increases glutathione production. NAC is amazing. But some people believe that NAC can feed yeast infections in the gut. So if your child does poorly on NAC, get a stool test for a gut infection or just support the removal of that gut infection with our yeast mold bundle. All right, Paul, is there anything I can do to reduce tics in children? Again, going back on that last thing you said, I'm looking at inflammation for that. All right, I do like our temper tamer supplement, or I wouldn't do that. Sorry, or our attention on the double, but not for you. I like our temper tamer supplement for motor tics, and I assume you're talking tics, motor tics, not like the bug tick. I like our temper tamer supplement, but I would also, again, I'm feeling a pandas pans inflammatory thing here. Maria from Sweden is on. Hey, Maria. Sandra, I gave my daughter Panda Bear for PANS. It has helped her mood, but her facial tics are worse. Should I give it more than once a day? Also, my son has autism and seizures. Would you give him Panda Bear to help? I would. Yeah, you can give Panda Bear to your son with autism and seizures. We just had a podcast on seizures. I want you to watch that. Okay. As for the Panda Bears worsening the motor tics, I think we've got to fight the infection. And again, when we talk about PANS or pandas, it's an autoimmune condition triggered by an infection. So I think you need to give the antivirals because you have PANS. So go with like our Viragon or our yeast mold bundle, or both. All right, Sandra, being our kids' guts are unhealthy, would we need to give more vitamin D for how little they absorb from the dose? Probably. Based on the scientific research we read today, probably. You're going to gauge that with the lab work. We want that 25-hydroxy to be around an 80 or a 90. And that's the U.S. numbers, okay? If you're in Europe, like I know many of our listeners are, I'm going to say you're going to want a vitamin D level around a 40. Okay, a 40 for the Europeans, an 80 or a 90 for the U.S. Retha, hey doc, my daughter's itchy a lot, scratches her skin, mostly in the shower. I have histamine C chewable, yeast mold biofilm. What more can I add? Try our Allergon supplement, but I would test her for allergies. Get a blood test for food and environmental allergies. Sharon, how long can we take curcumin? Love this product. I think, as long as you want. Maria, hey Dr. Skowron, can I give my son yeast mold, grapefruit seed extract together with other supplements? Just away from probiotics, like you said in your comment. Exactly. So most of our supplements can be given together. I would say a few exceptions is you want to give probiotics away from anything that kills bugs, like our grapefruit seed extract, biosillin, colloidal silver, paraslayer. And you want to make sure that our serotonin supplements are before bed. Unless your kid is really, really hyper, then a morning dose is okay. Kate's on. Hey, Kate. Nadia says, this is great. Thank you. You're welcome. Spread the word. David, anyone else's live stream not working? Sandra says, mine's okay. Nikki's watching. Hey, Nikki. She's a regular. Hey, for us moms, what do you have for migraines? Oh, migraines suck, don't they? Man. So I would say this for migraines. Number one, food journal. Number one, food journal. Okay? Any food can trigger a migraine up to 2 days later. So food journal and see if you can find out what food it is. So let me give you a couple examples. I'll get migraines if I'll drink a glass of wine with sulfites, so I try to get the non-sulfited wine because those sulfites give me migraines. Also, had a patient who would always get migraines on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday a migraine. Never a Monday, never a Wednesday, never a Friday afternoon. Always a Tuesday. We did the food journaling, and I said, look for this, any food from the same day up to 2 days before. We figured it out. It was eggs. She would always eat eggs on Sunday brunch, never any other day of the week. We cut out the eggs, migraine's gone. So honestly, I would food journal. As for treatments and supplementation, there's an herb called butterbur that helps a lot. But frankly, I would really food journal. All right, Lisa, what supplement would you recommend for constant skin picking? That's a lot of anxiety. I would get on our super serotonin or our spectrum tranquility. And we, we might be launching a new calming supplement in a couple weeks. It just came across my producer's desk. So it's a really interesting one that has holy basil and GABA and theanine. It's going to be intriguing. We'll be talking about anxiety once we have that available for you. All right. Handy, what vitamin D supplements do you recommend? I recommend ours. But again, if you're going to get something over the counter, just make sure it's D3, not D2. What's the difference between our D3 and another over the counter? Frankly, the gluten-free, dairy-free, honestly. Because, not most vitamin D supplements are the same as long as you're getting D3. We just want to make sure we're offering you a high quality. Denise, is there a better brand that is best? I give D3K2. Was told this certain company is the best. Like I just said, I think most D3 supplements on the market are very, very similar. What separates ours from potentially others is the gluten-free, dairy-free. But if you want drops, go get drops. The company that you mentioned in your comments, great company, but I don't think there's one better than another, honestly. If you are going to get K2, you want a form of vitamin K called K2Q7. That is the best. Benny said, I started giving my 8-year-olds super serotonin. I hope it's helping, Benny. Erica's watching. Hey, Erica. Erica, I still got that shirt that you gave me, Team Titus. Benny, his gas is something special. Also, his poop was gray to green. Stop there. Benny. His poop went from gray to green. That is not normal. I doubt it's the serotonin supplement, but anything can happen. What I think we're seeing is serotonin can activate peristalsis, or movement in the intestines. You have green poop. I got red flags everywhere, all right? I would either start our yeast mold bundle or get a stool test. Something's up. Shannon, where in New England are you located? I am in southern Connecticut. 2 hours, sandwich 2 hours from New York City, 2 hours from Boston. Stacy, just started the yeast mold bundle with colloidal silver. Directions say 1 cap for each item twice daily. Then I heard you say take the binder at another time. Does it matter? I think you can do whatever works. If you can separate the binder, it would probably be a little better, but just for ease of life, if you want to give all 3 at the same time, go for it. I've seen it work plenty. Dawn, I've been listening in for a couple of years now, but never commented. You are fab, Dr. Skowron. Thanks for our call today. I've been spreading the word here in the UK. Dawn, so glad that we had a good call. I think there's so much we can do. I just emailed you back. If you can just email me personally those labs that we talked about instead of our medical portal. That'd be great. But Dawn, again, thanks for doing everything you can to help your child. Joy, can I mix the yeast mold bundle and honey? Yes. Yeri, my son's vitamin C came in low. Which of your supplements do you recommend? I like our histamine C. Okay. Now we have many different forms. I like our capsules and I like our powder because it's not just vitamin C. It's other bioflavonoids that are going to enhance that antioxidant effect. Okay. The doctor recommended 2,000 IUs daily. It'd be milligrams, but yeah, for 3 months. Yeah, that's fine. That sounds great. Watch out. Vitamin C can loosen stools, but try our histamine C. Again, I like the capsules and the powder best. We do have gummies, but they're low dose. You can't fit much in a gummy. There's a volume issue. Gummies are mostly sugar and very little substance, and that's just what happens. So I think you need to take like 8 of our gummies. Denise, do you have any recommendations for OCD-related behaviors in autism? My daughter's really struggling, trying to help her without meds. Try our super serotonin, try our Panda Bear, try our Spectrum Tranquility. Or our Common Cool. I forgot about Common Cool. It's our #2 best-selling. One of the first supplements I launched with. Launched with 3 supplements, our Power and Focus, our Common Cool, and one we don't have anymore, our Trehalose. Trehalose is interesting. Susan, thank you so much. You're welcome. Thanks for helping your kid. Bella from Carlsbad. Going to see you at Taka in October. Good morning from Carlsbad. Oh, pause. Pause and side comment. If you're not familiar with Taka, which is the largest autism family support group in the world, they have an annual conference every October south of LA. Go. Man, what a great group. Imagine being surrounded by 500 to 1,000 people that know exactly what's going on. You know, you feel so alone. And you feel so alone and you're not getting the help that you need from doctors or family or whoever. And then to be surrounded be surrounded with every single person who's going through what you're going through. I love Taka. I love what they offer. So I've been there for 7 or 8 years. I'll be there this October. We finally settled on our lectures. I'll be giving a lecture on behaviors and a lecture with my colleague, Dr. Smith, on parasites and yeast. So see you there. Good morning, doctor. Do all your vitamin D have the same amount of dosing? No, they're all different. Also, what else can I give my 14-year-old daughter to get over her new fears? My daughter has been aggressive and disobedient during her horse therapy. Also to engage more in academics when school starts. Overall, she's doing great on your bundles. Well, when I hear 14, I think hormones. So try the Pregnenolone Calm, try the Temper Tamer, get her hormones tested. And if you're going to do hormones, test them all. Again, around day 21 is normally the best. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. And cholesterol. Sandra, I haven't had my son's dopamine level checked in about 10 years, but that time it was off the charts. What signs can high dopamine present as? Good question. What symptoms are caused by high dopamine? Hyperactivity, anger, and insomnia. Okay. It's hard to find anyone around my area who knows how to test dopamine and serotonin levels. I know, isn't that sad? I'm going to soapbox, Sandra. Thanks for that. Isn't it sad that isn't it sad that the medical community will prescribe psych meds, okay? Thousands and tens of thousands, if not millions a day of antidepressants, of Prozac, or risperidone, or Abilify, or all of these psych meds that alter your brain chemistry. They will prescribe them at the drop of a hat without even testing your levels. Are you going to get a cholesterol med without testing your cholesterol? No. Are you going to get a blood pressure medication without measuring your blood pressure? No. Are you going to get a psych med affects your serotonin level without testing your serotonin? Heck yeah. Heck yeah, you will. Okay? And I think that's a travesty. that we're not measuring medicine before prescribing medicine. Anyway, it's a test that every lab in the world offers. It's a urine test and it's easy. Jeannie, he's 7.5. So again, going back to vitamin D dose, 7.5-year-old, where's that put you? That puts you at 3,000 IUs a day. That's 75 micrograms. And measure your levels, okay? Dawn says hello. Hello, Dawn. Khadija from London. Hello, Khadija. I was just talking to the owner of Mandy Mart. Mandy Mart's our European distributor, and he's got distribution centers in the UK and in the EU. And we're talking about putting together a live webinar at the end of September for Europeans, and our live in-person conference in London or on the South Shore in June of 2025. So if you're in Europe or you want to be in England, June 2025, we're going to do a live conference. It's going to be me. It's going to be Dr. Bowles with Spectrum Needs, and it's going to be Marty from Aspire Nutrition, and some other speakers there too. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So that's next June. Smotty, can we give your multivitamins to a child with seizures? Yes, you can. Got a Fragile X syndrome. Is it treatable as other autism disorders? It is. Yes, you can support a child who has Fragile X syndrome. You can't get rid of the Fragile X, but you can make things better. I would start with lithium orotate. Okay, lithium orotate is a mineral. We're not talking about the pharmaceutical lithium. We're not talking about the batteries. We're talking about the mineral. Okay, lithium is a mineral. If you look at the periodic table of elements, remember that chart from high school science class? It's number 3. Lithium is a mineral. It's number 3. Sits on the left right under hydrogen. Okay, it's a mineral in the earth, and it helps us calm down, and great research with Fragile X. I would start at least 20 milligrams a day. So you can get lithium orotate over the counter. I can go on Amazon and get it. Imagine that. Khadija, do you ever visit Europe? Next June, I'll see you there. Again, we're thinking about either London or Bournemouth. One or the other. Anyway, we'll find out. Smotty, can we give your multivitamins? Yep. Haley, how long do you use the yeast mold bundle for? Until the infection's gone. I would say minimum 2 to 3 months, but until the infection's gone. How do you know it's gone? You either do a repeat stool test or you stop the yeast mold bundle, and if symptoms get worse, restart it. But if symptoms are, you maintain improvement, you probably don't need it anymore. Alice, can we talk about magnesium with PANS and mold illness? Certain magnesium causes high oxalates with mold patients. That is a great question, Elise. I don't have an answer for you right now, but that's a good question. Jeff, my kid has yellow hands and feet. He doesn't eat carrot, squash, or even papaya. I would test his liver. I would get a metabolic panel, test your liver enzymes, test your bilirubin, and go there. Sandra, I still have trehalose. Would that be good to give my daughter for her PANS? It's not going to help with PANS, but it does help with brain function. Okay? But I would take it. All right, more questions. Tracy says hello. Hello. All right, that's all the live questions for today. If you do have a question, or put it in the comments section now while I wrap up. Today, we're talking about vitamin D, okay? Very specific topic, but it's a really important nutrient, as they all are, okay? Hey, where do we get vitamin D? We make it. We make our own vitamin D from cholesterol, so you need adequate cholesterol levels to get healthy vitamin D. When the sun hits our skin, the ultraviolet rays, it starts the metabolism into bioactive forms of vitamin D. Now, you can get vitamin D from different foods, not huge amounts, and of course you can get vitamin D from supplements, right? So it's really important to do that. Now, our kids, based on the research, have lower vitamin D levels than neurotypical kids. Vitamin D is really important for brain function and immune function, the antioxidant support. So we need good levels of vitamin D. I want to make sure you have a healthy level. We talked ad nauseum about what a healthy level is, okay? You know that from the blood work, all right? The blood work, if you're in the US, you want to level around an 80, in my opinion. If you're in Europe, you want to level around a 40, in my opinion, okay? When we look at reference ranges of lab tests for vitamin D, I don't want to be barely enough, okay? I want to be great, okay? So make your vitamin D level great. How do you do that? Higher dosing, okay? What dosing is safe? We talked about some upper limits of dosing here, okay? So if you got a kid who's 1 year old or above, you should be given at least 2,500 IUs, 4 to 8, 3,000, 9 or above, 4,000, okay? So at least 4,000, 3,000, 2,000 IUs. How do you know if that's too much? You test. You test your vitamin D levels. If your vitamin D level's too high, well, we drop it down, okay? The major symptom of vitamin D toxicity is elevated calcium. So when you test your vitamin D, test your calcium, if your calcium's normal, you don't have vitamin D toxicity, period, okay? So make sure you're doing what's best for your kids, period, all right? And again, you know, most conventional docs are not taught nutrition. They're not taught vitamins. They're taught drugs and surgery. That's what they do, and they do it great, okay? So I wouldn't trust all their knowledge on nutrition because they don't have the training. So when we look at vitamin D levels, again, when I look at lab ranges in general, I want a bullseye on that dartboard. I don't want barely enough, all right? And I want more than barely enough for your kids, honestly. All right, let me get the coupon of the weekend, and I know we got a couple other comments here. A couple other comments. All right, Dawn, please consider London or Birmingham for your 2025 session. Yeah, Dawn, honestly, what's really driving, it's either going to be London or Bournemouth so far. What really drives where we're going to be is where people can easily attend, okay, just so travel, and pricing, you know, because a lot of these hotels are, you know, we want to keep the price affordable for you guys to come and attend. So we're trying to get the cost for families to be 50 pounds. And some of these hotels just charge exorbitant amounts for their lecture halls. And it's just, it's out of our budget. You know, we don't want to charge you 100 pounds so we can pay for the room, right? And it's, you know, none of the docs, none of the speakers are getting funding here. We're just here to help you guys. It's just paying for the room, honestly. So we're trying to do it where it's easily accessible and affordable. Maybe I just get a bullhorn and go to a park. Christina, hey, Dr. Skowron. Jade, oh, Christina, hey, how was Niagara Falls? I saw it on your Instagram. You were just, well, it was probably 6 hours from me. Dr. Skowron, Jade will be starting first grade. Anything else I can give her besides calm and cool? Oh, boy, Christina, we should probably just meet up and catch up and touch base. I hope you'll be there in October at Taka, but, geez, I hope her gut is good. I hope she's pooping. I hope she's on folinic acid. And boy, what would I, well, you know what I want her to take, Christina? Our new multivitamin when it comes out, which hopefully will be in another couple months. So I would look at that. Gata, thanks very much. You're welcome. Exibert, thank you. You're welcome. Christina is sharing. Thank you. May is saying, what's gut immune access for? It's for leaky gut. Okay, Christina sharing with a lot of people. Thank you, Christina. Spread the word, everybody. All right, Bella, thank you. And yes, talk is amazing. What's the best food to increase vitamin D? You know, I was going to print out a slide. It is really wild-caught fish, not farm-raised fish. Farm-raised fish is a joke. Wild-caught fish, wild-caught salmon. That's the best food. And then I think eggs. Eggs and red meat are a big part of my 14-year-old's diet. Have a great weekend. You too, guys. Christina says, will do. See you in October. Yeah, I hope you had a blast. Did you take the boat by the falls? I hope you did. I hope the kids loved it. All right. Hey, coupon of the weekend. Vitamin D20. Vitamin D20 is going to get you 20% off any of our supplements, any of our lab tests on SpectrumAwakening.com. That expires July 21st, 2024. If you want personal help with me, set up a telemedicine appointment on your phone, on your computer, anywhere in the world. I am here to help you guys. So thank you for doing everything you can to help your child, and I'll see you next week.